Today we'll be making this cherry tapestry or a crocheted beaded curtain. They're typically made by arranging vertical strings of plastic beads together, but I do have to give where credit is due. I did see some Korean vloggers make these beaded curtains out of crochet, and I was blown away by this idea and talent, so I tried my hand at making my own and designing my very own pattern. So let's get started. A quick explanation on the pattern. I designed it so it's 19 squares tall and 20 squares across. Each square or each pixel equals one puff stitch. I recommend that you build out the pattern from left to right because we'll be stitching each vertical cord separately. So in order to start your first cord or chain of puff stitches, you're going to make a slip knot onto your hook and chain one. Then you're going to yarn over and insert your hook into that first chain and pull your hook through. And then pull on the yarn a little bit so you have a bit of slack on the stitch. Yarn over again, pull your hook through for the second time, and yarn over once more and insert your hook for the third time. On your hook, if you count, you should have 7 loops. Then you're pulling your hook through all 7 loops and then chain 1. And there you go, there's your first puff stitch or your first quote crocheted bead. You're going to do the same exact thing into that same space that's right above where you just finished your first puff stitch. So do this 19 times and you'll have completed your first cord of stitches. So when there is a color change on the pattern, this is how I change colors. Insert your hook into that chain 1 you just made on the right side. Grab your second color and work your second color as normal into the space right above your previous puff stitch. I like to hold the 2 different colored strands in my left hand as I'm stitching so they don't come too loose, but don't worry too much about the tension because once you're done with a stitch, you can just pull on the tails a little bit like so, and it will fix some of that looseness, and you can move things around a little bit so they take on the proper shape again. Unfortunately, you will have to weave some ends. I personally do not like having a bunch of tails to weave in at the end, so I just do this step as I go. So we're checking in a couple of hours later. I'm done stitching out all the cords from my pattern. Now we just need to figure out how to hang these individual pieces. I didn't really want to go out and buy anything else, so I just cut out some cardboard pieces and taped them together. I'm going to take some twine and glue and wrap it around one of the pieces. Then I used some tacky glue and tape to start sticking the pieces onto the cardboard. Once I was done with that step, finally I was able to glue the front side of the cardboard rod. I did make it a bit too wide, but that was an easy fix. I just cut it to match the width at the end of that task. And here it is, looking really cute and ready to hang up on your wall. I added some star beads at the bottom to add even more fun and color to this project. You could, if you wanted to, call this a final product at this stage if you want and leave the cords separate and loose so it really is kind of like a curtainy effect. But I don't know, I kind of changed my mind when I got to the final step and I wanted to create more of like a rug-like tapestry, a bit more uniform of a texture. Neither is wrong, it's really up to your preference. So what I actually decided to do is to sew the individual cords together. Stitching through all the cords was actually really easy. I just went row by row and worked from right to left with a separate strand of yarn. If you also want to do this step, make sure you insert your needle and your yarn through the middle of the puff stitch so you don't see the yarn running through your work, if that makes sense. So this is how my final product ended up looking like. I'm overall so happy with how it turned out. The texture is so satisfying and bubbly, and it's always nice to have a bit more color in my workspace. Did you give this craft a try as well? If you did, let me know. You can tag me on social media. I would love to see how it turned out, and I appreciate you joining me on this cozy crafty day. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye!